Yeah. All right, that's it. There I am. I see you now. I plugged in a different speaker or microphone. All right. One quick and all right, you're saying what's going on?
In about 4 minutes. Sign in double so we can check the pad, the iPad for accuracy, please. There's a paper sign in as well as the push pad sign in. The microphone speaks.
Church.
Tell them I called. That's good. I have it's fine.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for coming. I know realtors have a big choice whether you get up out of bed and go into a building on a cold day. And I know it probably isn't all about me, so thank you for being here. And I'm sure they want all that information. Don, do you have anything opening and inspiring for us? You knew I was going to call him, right?
Well, I don't know if I.
Ooh, what's that?
You are being recorded on YouTube, and they are watching you and give us. Hopefully that came across.
I can't stand still.
Like that. Anyway, that's what's going on. I wanted to welcome them, and we got seats up front. Pews empty up front. Please be needed. And
Well, let's leave it alone.
Up front?
here we come.
Sorry, we had to call you out.
All right, very good. Here we go. We got some. Anyway, I think things other than that, I'm grateful to see the room for the first time
It's impressive.
filled up
And
with
it's cold.
enough room
Yeah.
on a cold day.
It's cold.
We got the guys that came all the way from. Where'd you drive from, John?
The real estate.
All the way to you never go home. I guess. David, you never go home. You guys right across the street. No, somebody could get here quick. And Dave Hall and Sean Danway is our folks from Real Estate Commission, officially in the world of investigations as far as that kind of thing. So they know what the rules are and what how to help us get in compliance.
We got two missing this morning. They were being investigated, I think.
I see. That might be the case. All right, very good. You're
Okay, we
on.
got our team meeting. I'll go ahead and welcome our vendors, Mr. Kyle, Stuart Kyle, and Denver City has to see. I gotta do it, you gotta do it.
So I gotta stay right in front of them?
I don't know.
I can see them. Will they see me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I don't have to, yeah, we get updates on everything that's going on in the markets and what's happening in the mortgage industry. We don't have all that much updates right now. Freddie and Fannie have been kind of quiet, which is kind of eerily quiet. But, not many updates. I do want to kind of go over a couple of things. I know everybody's kind of seeing what's going on in the markets with the stocks and the bonds, and both of them are affected equally. So I've been really looking at this and seeing kind of a projection of where interest rates are headed. They're definitely going up. So the people that think that they're going to go back in the threes, I know I stood up here and said this many times, but I haven't seen a market like this ever. With the Dow as high as it's ever been, and it's just, there's definitely a shift, right? So we definitely have a shift, and I think the shift that we've never experienced before because of where the numbers are at in the stock market. Dow's never been this high. So rates are kind of questionable about where they're going to end up, but they're definitely going up. So we're going to have some dips. We're going to, but it's going to be doing this, but continually to go up. So great time to talk to your buyers, get them off that fence, say, you better jump on it now rather than 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now, because the rates are definitely going to be higher at that point in time. So, but again, in reality, when you're looking at historically, they're still going to be extremely low. So don't let that scare the buyers off. I mean, 4.5%, 5%, that's still extremely low over a historical period. So keep that in mind, and as you're talking to your buyers. And then just to reiterate from our last joint meeting, we're still on target to release our second mortgage products at the end of the quarter, and in the second quarter, not the first quarter. And then still have the availability to do the 80-15-5 loans and the 80-10-10 loans, which is, for those that don't know, 80% first with a 10% second and like 10% down. that avoids the mortgage insurance on conventional loans. So the ones that weren't at the last meeting where I announced that, we are still on track to release that product at the end of the second quarter. So that is coming back into play in the market. I'll still continue to get you more information and a more exact date of when that's going to be released. So that's going to benefit the conventional loan borrowers that don't pay that MI, that don't quite have the 20%. So just to kind of keep that in y'all's head. So other than that, that's what I've got. Suzanne.
Remind us again the prices of the appraisals that are changing.
Okay, so VA did go up to $500. It was effective February 1st. If it's, and I still haven't gotten clarification on this, if it's a foreclosed property, it's $525. I don't know if that's a VA foreclosed property or just a foreclosed property in general, but those are $525. Our appraisals, FHA, conventional, have not changed at all. So we're still at $450 on those appraisals. Okay. Anything else? Okay, guys, thanks for the business, and if you need anything, just holler at me.
Thank you. Okay, now I have the pleasure of introducing the Sean from OREC and David. Okay, let's welcome them.
I guess we'll move over here since you guys have the camera on.
Sure.
I want to see you.
Let's go with Sue.
Hello, Midwest City. So I am Sean Danley, the Chief Investigator with the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission. My counterpart is David Hall. He's the investigator with the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission. And we're here today pretty much to just do kind of a Q&A. You guys may have a lot of questions as it relates to what you can and can't do as far as advertising, working in teams, and we're going to try to answer all of your questions today. So what I want to do first is kind of go over a couple of changes to the contract that have been implemented. They will actually go into effect on February 15th, 2018. And luckily for you guys, you have Don, who is a member of our contracts committee. So he's in all those meetings. I don't sit in on any of those meetings. So when the changes come about, I have to go over everything just like you guys do. He's, integral in making those changes to the contract. So he's obviously a good resource for you guys to have in-house. But a couple of changes I do want to go over, you may or may not be aware of at this point. I gave a handout to Lottie. I don't know if you want to pass them out, but I didn't expect a group this big, so there's not enough printouts.
We're awesome.
I did a class here before, but it wasn't as many people. It was over on the other side. So I have been here a couple of times. But one of the main changes to the contract is the times of the essence clause has been implemented. And if you guys aren't aware, basically what that means is your dates are finite. So when you have a date in a contract, this is your closing date, you want to honor that date, okay, as much as possible. So that's the biggest change that has come down in the contract. One of the other changes to the contract is the earnest money receipt and instructions, which is a big deal because we get a lot of questions from licensees who call us and ask, do I have to sign this portion of the contract? And we tell people, if you don't touch the earnest money, you don't have to sign that portion of the contract. However, you guys run into problems when it comes to closing because the lender wants all of the licensees involved in the transaction to sign that portion of the contract, whether you taking in the earnest money or not. So the new clarified contract, if you go page, it'll be the last page of this handout for those of you who have it. It's a little bit clearer, and it has a section that there's 4 boxes that need to be checked. And either the listing broker will check a box, the selling broker, you want to indicate the name of the title company, and there's another box for others for that earnest money receipt. So if you're the listing broker, you get the earnest money check, you deposit it, you want to check that box and you want to sign underneath there. If you're the selling broker, you get that check, you want to sign underneath this section here. So those are the biggest changes that I'm going to discuss today. Anything else, I think you guys can refer to Don, and I know he's doing classes right now. I believe Sherry Kiefler, who's our deputy director, is going around the state doing classes right now as well. So you may want to sit in on one of those classes to kind of be abreast of all the new changes that are coming.
We've been covering, I have copies of, I mean, those of you that have been in my world, you've seen them multiple times aboard it. The time is of the essence, and then all the changes, the FHA and the VA forms are changed where the cap on repairs is, that line's missing. The 5-day extension automatically on the first page or due to the closing process is gone out of it as well. So, I mean, those are the main ones that are going to affect the majority of people in this room. The title company section has been modified to be a little clearer, and it did shift the expense of the mortgage inspection report from the seller to the buyer, because it's just, you want a survey or do you want a mortgage inspection report? One of those two, you check one, but the buyer's paying it, whereas previously the seller was paying it the way the wording was. So those are the main, primarily the changes we've had, and most of us have had conversations about these changes since October.
And if you go to,
Another class coming.
We can do them, I'm in the building.
So these changes are effective when?
February 15th.
February 15th.
Yes. And if you guys go to the OREC's website, there's a link on our homepage that says contract forms and related addenda. And at the very top of that page, you'll see all of the changes. There's a little booklet. It's about 41 pages long, and you'll see all the changes from the old contract to the new contract. And that's for you to review. Okay?
Looks just like this right here.
Yes, except it's a lot longer.
Is it downloaded in the dot loop, and does someone go in and get rid of all the old ones so no one will be using them?
We can't put them in there until February 15th.
Right.
They can't go live. So I've got copies right now in my hands. I can't let anybody have them.
Right.
Until the 15th. We have a meeting on the 9th, Friday, this Friday. The Contracting Forms Committee does to make sure that before they go live, everything is satisfactory. The residential contract, the FHA and the VA forms are, looks to me like ready to roll. There are some things on the new construction and other things that are still probably needing to be modified. But I'd love to hand them out to you, but I'm not authorized to, but I do have them. And so I know what they're going to look like. So I can show them to you on the screen. And that's what we've been doing. It's basically saying, here's the difference between what we have and what we're going to have. But on February 15th, Christy, that's the day that probably we'll load the new ones on.
So you'll be spending the evening with Janae on Valentine's evening.
For your information, that's my wife.
Gotcha.
I do have a problem.
Right.
We have a problem.
Somebody else take me on a date.
She goes.
We can video what you're doing, and I can do that way. All right.
So some of the biggest changes that are coming down the pipe also obviously that have occurred already is the team registration. And some of you guys how many people here are on a team? Oh, so quite a few of you guys. Okay. And have you guys gotten your teams registered?
Yes.
Everybody's registered? Okay, it's Casey's responsibility to get you guys registered, get it paid, and so that you guys will be in compliance, because you don't want any calls from us, or what'll happen is your competitors will turn you in. That's typically how we get notified of what's going on out there. So make sure you're on top of that. You guys get your teams registered, and so you can be in compliance.
And the registration is $100.
It is $100 for your team name, correct?
And the signed forms are in Vicky's office.
I got a question. So even if you've got the team name but haven't actually got anybody on the team, yeah, you still need to pay.
No, in order to have a team, there has to be 2 or more licensees. So if it's just you can't form a team, not by yourself. Okay. Go ahead, Laura.
Sean, does that mean that you can't use team then unless there's two licenses or
Correct.
more?
Correct.
There can be 2, at least 2, and then more.
Yeah, there can
on a
be more
team.
than 2, but there has to be at least 2 licenses.
So you can't call
So for
yourself.
instance, my escort
Mhm.
has my team name set up already, but I haven't formed the team. So do I need to pay the $100 for registration?
No, what do you mean by your escort?
Is your pay
Is that for
entity?
your commissions? Well, you can't advertise that. That's only for commissions.
That's only for.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can be paid through your broker. They can
But
pay
it
you.
doesn't
You
need to
can't
be-
advertise that.
If it is, then we need to pay the $100.
Well, no, if you have an escort set up strictly for commissions, you cannot advertise that name at all.
You would in essence have to drop that name and register a different team name or have a different pay entity.
Right.
And then you could have that as a team name.
Exactly.
Absolutely do not advertise your corporation names
Mhm.
because we will get penalized for it.
Absolutely.
So if someone comes in brand new, they're planning on building one, and like they name their name something group, but they're the only person, or husband and wife, can that be a group, or is that illegal?
No, it cannot. It cannot just be one licensee on a team. It has to be two or more. Go ahead.
So right now I'm a team and I have all my Equity Homes team stuff out there, but my daughter's getting ready to leave to go join the military, which is gonna leave me as solo agent until I find another team member. What about all my marketing stuff everything is marketed Equity Homes team, because I've been a team for the last year.
Is she still going to be licensed or is she going to be inactive?
Stephanie, she's probably just gonna drop it, she's going to the Navy.
Yeah.
I need to find another
Yeah,
team.
you're going to need to find another team member because the rules are clear. There has to be two or more. So
No pressure, who wants to be on my team?
No. What
She said, she asked for this.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, just to be clear, on the team name, you know how you do your S corp, you got the LLC after it.
Yes.
You can still use that as your team name without putting the LLC on there, correct?
Yeah. You can't have the entity. You
Yeah.
can't have a corporation or
But the
corporation.
actual
Or,
front part of it without the LLC is fine.
Yes.
too.
But you can use the word team.
Yeah, but they answered that
Yeah.
part already.
Other questions?
So if you have a licensed assistant, does that count for two?
Yeah, if they're licensed,
They're
they're
licensed,
licensed,
yes.
yes.
Then they're two.
Yes.
But if they're not licensed.
If they're not licensed, it doesn't count because that's to be two licensees or more.
She was licensed at one point.
You guys have any advertising questions and what you can and can't do? I mean, we get a lot of advertising complaints, so, and questions.
You open that
What's the
can
biggest
of worms.
Right now, we get a lot of anonymous
Right.
printouts from Facebook where people are advertising to do giveaways and give away gift cards and things like that. And you're not supposed to induce a buyer. So if you do that, then your competitors they'll go to your Facebook page, take a screenshot, print it out, mail it to us anonymously, but we have to investigate that regardless. Yes. Yes, go
Okay,
ahead.
I have a Facebook, my normal Facebook, where just me,
Mhm.
and then I have a Hawkins Homes Facebook. And so we do stuff on that. Somebody said something recently that I had to have real estate stuff on my personal too, if I ever, something goes from one to the other. Is that a true?
Only if you're advertising your real estate business on your personal page. If you have a Facebook page dedicated to your real estate business, then I would do all my advertising on that page because your broker's reference has to be there. So I would keep it limited to that page.
So like, I guess my question on that, then you post something or begin something on your business page,
Mhm.
and then you take that and share it onto your personal page, and it directs them back to that page, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Any
Yes.
way we could get, make it people, whoever turns you in has to put their name on it.
I mean, I wish we could, but what happens is we are allowed as real estate commission to open a case motion of commission, which means we are the complainant, the real estate commission itself. So that's what we do with those anonymous complaints, because when somebody sends us a screenshot or printout, we can see that there's a violation in that ad. So we have to act on it, but we are then the complainant in that complaint. And a lot of times, like I said, they mail them in anonymously, so we don't even know. There's no return address on the envelope. We don't know who sends them in to us.
We had one that the lady came back, she left and came back with us and she had 5 lists.
Mhm.
She put, Lolly, real good, working with them, getting their signs, being in compliance.
Right.
And, it was gonna take the builder, the sign man, probably 5-6 days to get her new sign. But they were already ordered and it still cost us $1,000. That seems to me to be a little bit, when we were watching it, taking care of it, but those sellers, that's what I told the boss there, the attorney there, I said, we're on top of it,
Mhm.
and we're working for all the independent people out here, and you're supposed to be watching them, and I said, we were watching them, and we knew that we were getting stuff replaced,
Mhm.
and we still couldn't, it was there any
Grace.
justification for that? I mean, that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, you said what is the grace period for?
Yeah, they're doing it intent.
Mhm.
Then people are doing it the wrong intent, but if someone's doing it, working the right way, why are you penalized?
I mean, there really is no grace period. There's no grace period written into our code of rules. So once you're notified that you're not in compliance, you just want to get in compliance as quickly as possible. And we understand sometimes that includes a cost to you guys because you may have already spent money on a certain advertising, but you have to become compliant. So the commission is there to protect consumers. And unfortunately, that group of 7 individuals that sit up there at that commission, in front of the commission room, they're not concerned about your pocketbook. So they are concerned with what the law says, and we have to uphold that.
Is it against the code to advertise a house on your personal Facebook page?
To advertise the house, as long as your broker's reference is there, no. Your broker's reference has to be in all advertising. It has to be prominent, conspicuous, and easily identifiable.
On signs that I've seen several on coming soon listings,
Mhm.
and how long can you have a sign that says come soon, has your sign in the yard?
There's not a time frame. It's just that you need to have the owner's approval in order to place that out there. We get quite a few calls about those signs, but there's not a time frame. As long as you have the approval of that owner to place that sign, then you're fine.
Doesn't apply.
Well, that's an MLS rule. That's probably an MLS rule.
Yeah, you have to separate OREC code and rules from MLS and your local boards, things like that.
What are you saying, Brent?
That's a board rule. The board rules you can't have consent.
Exactly.
Look on the city board.
Mhm.
You can't have consent.
I think you guys have to turn in your listing agreement after so long. Right. And see, that doesn't apply to the law. So we say as long as you have the owner's permission, you can put those signs out.
And once we get compliant, like if you get some call someone say, hey, you have some issue, do you get charged right then, or do you have, how much time you have to get it fixed?
No, it's not immediate. I mean, it takes a while for us to investigate a case, so it's not instant.
So what was Casey talking about? He had to pay $1,000.
She was switching signs.
It says it's not right away.
Well, he probably was investigating, so that's why he probably ended up having to pay.
Once an investigation is launched, there's really, you can go change it, and we do acknowledge, okay, they changed it as quickly as possible, but that does not stop the investigation and the report that goes forward to the commissioners.
Right.
And so, explain the fine again.
The fine was for the old sign being up, and the new sign wasn't there, that she didn't want to do this service to her seller, so of course she put the sign up, and we knew we were working on it, she really ordered the signs, but he went to the fence, and they both got fined.
Was it different brokers or public?
I think she left and then came back, and it was.
Did she ever, was it her old sign? Is that what it was?
Our old sign?
Yeah, this is our old sign of the bill, the owners wanted it up immediately. She asked them to wait a week
Oh, okay.
to get the new ones, and
Right.
so by putting them up, it cost us $1,000.
All right, and just so you guys know, as agents under Casey, if once you're investigated, everybody ends up getting the fine. The entity, the managing broker, if it's a branch office, they get fined. The branch broker gets fined, all the way down to the sales agent. Everybody. Somebody goes to the top of the hill with a bucket of stuff, and everybody gets hit with it going down the hill.
Right.
So it's really important that you guys stay in compliance, and I bet you I have his okay to say that, because those fines are not light. You guys are not out there working for free.
And your best course of action, when you guys are thinking about starting some new advertising campaign, go to KC first. So go to your team leader, go to Lottie. Lottie, she's your.
And then I have to go to you, Sean.
And she comes to me. She calls me or she emails me and asks me whether or not this is compliant. I can review it and then I'll let her know, and she can give you the appropriate answer. So,
Sean?
yes,
Conspicuous, it means upfront, the first thing you see.
it
pretty
should
much.
be the most prominent thing on the sign. And there are a lot of associates that want to put the broker reference, like a little tiny reference at the bottom of their ad, but
There are some that we literally use a magnifying glass to find it.
Yes.
You can't even decipher with these bifocals the phone number that's on there. So
And just to clarify, broker reference means Keller Williams Green Meadow approved logo, not your own rendition of it, not your creative way of making it look great with turquoise and gold.
Right.
It is Keller Williams Green Meadow logo, red, white, black, and gray are the 4 approved colors. And please let me see them before you pay money to make it happen.
Right.
I have a quick question. Do the broker's address and phone number also have to be on? So Sean?
The phone number has to be in your advertising. The address does not necessarily have to be. If you want to put it there, you can. And then you
Office
can,
number.
yeah, the office number should be on there.
So is it business cards too?
Yes.
It's what?
Business cards.
Business cards have to have the office number.
Now your broker can tell you he wants the address on your business card. So you want to go with whatever they tell you you need to have on your business card. And you want to also make sure that your Green Meadow is on there, not just Keller Williams, because a lot of associates will join a franchise, just put that franchise in their ad, but it has to be the actual full name of that franchise. Okay, so if it's Keller Williams Green Meadow, that has to be in all your advertising.
So on eEdge, if you don't manually load up the Green Meadow approved logo, it will automatically default to the plain static KW, and that is not compliant. When you use Michael Lewis Marketing Suite templates, they automatically put on the Green Meadow logo for you. So just be aware. You'll have to take extra steps when you use eEdge, okay?
Yes. Yeah, because what has to happen in your advertising, the consumers have to understand that each office is independently owned and operated. So Casey is every single Keller Williams out there, so consumers have to know which Keller Williams they're doing business with. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
On the OREC website, is there a place, with all the different advertising and marketing and technology and things has really made things a lot different. And I think the majority of people want to be compliant, but
Yes.
when you go and read a lot of these things, they're very much open to interpretation. So is there a place on the website that has features? This is how it should look. This is how it should look.
No.
This is how it should look.
There's not.
If you don't do that, there's just in the overall scheme of things,
Right.
no one's ever going to be 100% compliant about that.
Right.
I don't.
Well, again, that's why you want to go to your team leader, your marketing director, to verify whether or not you're in compliance. And like she said, she can come to me or David or someone at the commission and ask, is this in compliance? And we can give them a definitive answer. But there are no anything on the website that shows examples of signs or
Might be
ads.
helpful though to have that.
Yeah, and we've heard that before, but the commission just hasn't decided to do anything like that yet.
Sometimes there's some things that want compliance, so you get a letter.
You got to blur their company name that was compliant.
I think that.
Yeah. Yes. Bring all your questions on. I mean, we're here, so anything you might be thinking of, just let us answer your questions. Go ahead.
I've kind of a dumb question, but I was at a lunch and learn last week, and there was a debate as to whether or not you can offer cookies at your open house. And
Yes.
Cookies are,
Inducements.
inducements to your
It's dessert.
I mean,
Technically,
yeah.
That's not an inducement, is it?
technically, you're not supposed to, but we're not gonna. That's not something that we're gonna
I could
investigate.
give you a cookie and you'd be like, I didn't see
Yeah.
the cookies.
You give me a cookie, you're gonna get a smile out of it.
Yeah, you can, I mean, like you said, it is something that can be considered by our inducement, but we're not going to open up an investigation based on something like that. We know it happens, but we don't go after people for that. Yeah.
I have a
Yes.
question.
Uh-huh.
So there's an agent that is going to go to like a big job fair
Yes.
out of town. And she is going to set up a table.
Mhm.
And so our raffle items, like for instance, she will offer books
Mhm.
to people who want to sign up for them. Is that a no-no?
You cannot do that, no. You cannot do any sort of giveaways. I mean, that can be considered inducing a prospective buyer. And usually you want that person to sign their name or give you their contact information. No, You can pass out like pens with the Keller Williams information on them or notepads, things of nominal value. And we kind of look at nominal value, anything under like $100. But as long as the broker's reference and advertising is on those items, you can pass those out. But you don't want to do any sort of giveaways. Enter this raffle here while I'm at this, home show. You don't want to do anything like that because if your competitors see you doing it, they'll turn you in.
So if it's a job fair, we're looking for new realtors, not new clients, is that different?
Yes, because you're looking for licensees. You're not looking for general public. So that's
What if you're not providing the giveaway and it's sponsored by another organization?
We don't control those.
Yeah, we can't control what they're doing. We only have jurisdiction over the license.
Giveaway sponsored by another organization.
You could advertise a giveaway for that individual who's giving it away. That's,
About the builders.
Yeah. So if you guys are representing, let's say a seller, because builders like to give away things all the time. As long as you're clear that it's the builder offering that incentive or that inducement, then you can do that. You can promote it. But it has to be clear, it's not the licensee.
it's not the licensee. You have to make it clear that this is not my giveaway. This is being sponsored by or given away by.
Right.
So we've seen a lot, in fact, I got a call the other day and I was like, that's gross. But like ADT will be like, hey, can I get your name and number of your client? And afterwards we'll give you like $100 or something.
Yeah, and that's allowed. I mean, you're allowed to they'll give you a referral fee as a licensee, right? But what you have to do, you have to disclose to the parties in the transaction that you're receiving a referral fee, okay? So all the parties. So even if you're handling it for one side, you need to let everybody know, hey, ADT is giving me a referral fee for turning them over to you.
So the seller, the listing agent, everybody?
All the parties, which is the buyer and the seller.
Who's the buyer and the seller?
Right. Okay. But you're allowed to receive a referral fee. If it's you referring somebody to an insurance company, ADT, AT&T, whatever it is, you can receive a referral fee.
And then also for brokers open, you can have giveaways for brokers open, but you guys need to make sure that neighbors and prospective purchasers who are not licensed aren't the ones coming by, and you always have those that, hey, can I come in and take a look? Then you have a problem if somebody turns you in for it.
Right. Because that could be
What if
the.
they come in and don't put their name in for the?
I wouldn't even touch it. If it's a broker's open, I would say, let me show you the house on another day. Let's set up an appointment.
Yeah, because you guys like to do a lot of giveaways at your broker's open, which is really for other licensees. But if you start doing that and there's the general public showing up, then you have a problem. And
You can't separate it at that point.
Right.
So if a realtor wants to schedule an appointment during your broker's open, the answer is no then?
I would suggest that, I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I would suggest you leave the general public out of your broker's open.
So then I should stop inviting all the neighbors to come over.
Or your
If it's a broker's open and you're giving away,
you're doing giveaway.
I mean, like, it's good, but they're not putting their name in for being
we're, like I said, if you got cookies, that's not something that we're gonna. If it's a giveaway like that, we're not.
When I have workers open, I go knock on all the doors that all of the cars will be violating, and I invite them to come have lunch with us and see the house of their neighbor's house there, or whatever. And usually one or two will take me.
Right. But see, the thing about it
Is there a giveaway?
If we get a complaint, that can be looked at as an inducement.
Right.
So that's the problem. Because those neighbors can be prospective buyers. So because it's a giveaway.
If it's a giveaway.
Right.
It's like they're not in for the money, but I just invite them. It's just a pleasure.
Would the lunch be considered a giveaway?
It can be. It can be considered a giveaway, yes.
But inviting them to an open house, going door to door,
Yeah, if you're just inviting them to come and look at the house, no. But if you're giving away something, we're saying come and this is what you'll receive for coming, then that can be an issue.
Have you ever had a complaint with a realtor advertising free beer at their open house?
Not personally, no.
I see them.
I've seen free beer.
I've been at the commission 10 years and I've never investigated a case like that.
We haven't had one come across. That doesn't mean we're not going to investigate it.
Right.
question was, have we received one? We haven't.
Thoroughly investigated.
Yeah.
You might be able to.
Especially if they're signing the documents during that time.
Right. Other questions?
Can you tell people that part of your commission goes to a non-organization when you buy?
You want to give away a portion of your, the question was, can you tell people that,
Yes.
That's what I
Okay,
see.
1, 2, 3.
I seen that advertised and I just was wondering if.
Okay.
The question, someone had stated that when you buy with them, they give part of their commission to a certain nonprofit organization.
right, and you cannot share a portion of your commission with an unlicensed person or entity, so you do not want to advertise that. If you guys want to give a portion of your commission after the closing to United Way or American Cancer Society, whoever you guys support, you can do that. In your advertising, you can say, I support the United Way, but don't say I'm going to give a portion of my commission away if you work with me, because that's a violation. Yes.
I'm sure y'all will see it too.
I mean, that's a common question. We get that question all the time, so.
And that's
And then let me say this: a lot of the people that work at the commission, a lot of us are on Facebook and on different social media sites. We see violations all the time. We have enough to go on. we just scroll by, you know. If it's sent to the commission as a complaint, we investigate it.
Right. And again, 90% of the time it's your competitor, somebody out there that you're doing business against. They will see that and they will turn you in a heartbeat. So just be mindful of that.
More than likely, they probably are backup contract, and then you close.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so on this new earnest money form, if your buyer takes their earnest money directly to the title company and you don't ever touch it,
Yes.
do you check the other box?
I would check the other box and
fill
indicate that. Yes.
Okay, and then after I check that box, then I can sign it because I'm.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you're acknowledging where the earnest money is at. So yes. And Don, you would agree with that? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, once you acknowledge where it is, it's safe to acknowledge it.
Right.
But a copy, actually, that says the listing broker is like, whoever's holding is supposed to provide a copy to the other person.
Right.
It reads that way. So,
Questions? I know this.
Does anybody have any questions? Can members see talk?
I don't know if they've got it set to that way. I don't think I've got it set to make noise.
Somebody's
Somebody's gonna have to
They
text
can
me.
call me. I'm Midwest City. If you have any questions, text me or call me. Pronto. Thank you.
How many people do you have in Midwest City?
About 40.
Oh, cool.
I have about 10 people.
Well, we had a vendor come in, the other day, wanted to start a new program that said, for all buyers, we're gonna give $1,000 credit. And I understand that's legal, that's them. But the other part of it was, if we refer someone to you, then you will give up 20% of your selling commission that will show up on the HUD as a credit from the vendor.
Yeah.
That's kind of a backdoor little thing.
It is, and it is. That's a common question we get also. And you guys are allowed to reduce your commissions, but obviously you have to have the seller in compliance with doing that as well, because that credit that they receive will then have to go back to the buyer side.
Right.
So yeah, as long as everybody's on board with that, that's perfectly fine.
Sean, it's my understanding you can use the seller all you want.
Absolutely, yes. You can induce a seller, so there's no problem with you saying, list your house with me and I will do this for you. That's perfectly fine.
But if you were to advertise that, all buyers, if you come to me, I'll reduce my commission by 1% to the seller, that's an inducement.
Yes.
Is it not?
I wouldn't advertise that. I mean, obviously you can make that determination during the transaction that you're gonna reduce your commission, but I wouldn't advertise.
People in Texas do that a lot.
We have a question from someone in Midwest City. It's Taylor Sherman. He's asking, what are the most common violations the OREC investigates? And he also makes a comment, also, this is great. I'm so glad to see we have video capabilities now.
You wanna
Although I think one of the most common is the advertising. Advertising, and then on the property management side, there's a lot that comes through there. I don't know how many are into property management here, but we get quite a few there concerning trust accounts, commingling, things like that.
Yes. Does anybody here do property management?
I just manage my own stuff.
Okay, that's good. We don't look into what you're managing, that properties that you personally own, so we don't look into that.
And you don't look at that at all, right?
No, you just look at properties you guys manage for other people, and that has to run through KC. So you want to make sure that you're not off on the side, running a property management company on your own. Everything has to go through KC.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, or in the
And
family,
then
or in the
if it-
family trust, I have to,
Right.
or in the family trust,
Right.
I understand.
And I think, as long as you're following landlord tenant type that landlord tenant act, and you're fine, and following
And
their
I still
trust
have, I
account.
still have a trust account and everything.
You're in good shape.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the answer on if a realtor is commonly telling buyers, if you come with me, I will reduce my commission to the seller. Is that not an inducement?
I would look at that as an inducement, yes. Like I said, I wouldn't advertise that.
Right.
Like I said, if you're in the transaction and you tell the buyer, I will reduce my commission for whatever reason, you can do that, but I wouldn't advertise, I'm gonna reduce my commission if you work with me, because that can be looked at as an inducement.
But it's kind of a contract that makes the contract work, that's fine.
Right.
We get that quite a bit.
Dan, how does that help the buyer?
Well, they're gonna buy it cheaper. Where you at? That's where are you? Yeah, they're gonna buy it cheaper. Obviously.
You mean, you're assuming the seller will cut that.
Absolutely, yes. Well, I mean, Casey, we see it happen all the time. We do it too. I'll just tell you. If we're just a little bit off and we agree to give some up to make the contract work with the seller, I never thought that was an inducement, but to literally meet with everybody I see and say, hey, let me tell you what our deal is. We cut our commission from a buyer to the seller, that would seem like an inducement. Well, and we don't.
And recently we saw something like on Facebook, on Facebook in one of the Facebook groups, there was a contract that was written by a buyer. The buyer came over and said, I'm not working with a realtor, so therefore the selling, we need to reduce it by 3%.
I've seen that.
Say it again?
Okay, so there was, on the Facebook group page, there was a contract, and the contract was delivered to the listing agent directly from the buyer, and the buyer wrote on the contract that the price would be reduced, and that there was no need to pay a selling broker because the services of a realtor were not rendered, and therefore to reduce the commission by 3%.
Now you're saying a buyer?
So the buyer had no representation, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Buyer-
they did, but they did.
He like got into the house with a realtor, I think.
They just wrote it, they just wrote the contract on their own.
Yeah, so they didn't have an agent working for them.
They probably had an agent show it.
They showed it.
But they wrote it themselves.
But that doesn't create a broker relationship, even though they show it, it doesn't create a broker relationship, so that's fine.
So we said that's fine.
Compensation is not the buyer. It's not paying
Buyer
buyer.
made the offer.
It's
That's
just
right.
through their office, who is getting paid. So the list, in my opinion, guys, correct me. I mean, the compensation discussion generally is in that case, between the seller and the realtor. And so when this guy decided he was just going to take advantage of it and cut somebody out, he doesn't have a listing agreement to read. He just has a purchase contract. There's a listing agreement that says here's who's getting paid and when and how. And in that listing agreement, the state form, as well as the others, basically clearly say that from buyer coming from anybody on earth and Mars, you still get paid. And the buyer comes from the seller says, here's a guy, a friend of mine wants to buy my house. The compensation it says it's not going to be adjusted as a result of that. So that was the deal. They were trying to cut somebody out that they have no authority in that moment to do it. This compensation is still due as far as I can see.
Yes.
They can try that deal, but at the end of the day, close the deal and it's still due.
And you may agree as the listing realtor to cut it, but you're not required to.
Right.
No, that's right. We have NAR code rules
for that kind of thing as well. I mean, that's the thing that's interesting is we got all real estate commission rules, MLS rules, NAR, code of ethics rules, and all of those, we get them mixed up where they're coming from. And so when you guys ask questions, I gotta go figure out where does it say it. I know it says it, but it takes hours to figure out where it says it because I gotta go through all three of those sometimes.
And I've actually investigated a case in Grove where the licensees were advertising a property, a lake property that wasn't in Grove. It was on the J side of the lake. And apparently those properties on that side are a little bit more, I guess, kind of trailer type of. And so what they did is advertise the property address, but put Grove, the town of Grove at the end of their address. And the Northeast Board was allowing them to do that. Our rules say no. That's a misrepresentation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so they ended up getting fined, and letters of caution were sent out to the board, letting them know that they're putting all of their members in jeopardy of being in violation.
This may not be a question for you guys. We had an instance happen 2-3 years ago. A client was out looking at homes and walked into a home and there was an open house. Told the realtor that they were working with a realtor, and she acknowledged and said, "Oh, okay." And when they got finished, she said, "Hey, I'd like to show you one more." She said, "It's one I got coming out." So she takes them over. It wasn't on the market. There was no leasing agreement, but the only way I could buy that then after looking at it was to go through that realtor. So she was kind of holding it back. Unfortunate deal. Yes, me, it was against ethics. I would say yes. But
Yeah, and that would be a code of ethics violation, and sometimes we get complaints sent in to us where the complainant will actually cite a bunch of violations of the code of ethics, which we do not regulate. The code of ethics is for your local boards, the NAR, OAR, and your local boards. So, I mean, that really has nothing to do with the real estate commission. So if it's a violation there, it needs to go to your board, not the real estate commission. Okay. Any other questions?
Can I ask a property management question?
Yes.
So Fair Housing says that as soon as you tell me I have a therapy dog, then I have to let that therapy dog in my rent house. But if my insurance on my rental says I can't have pits, rots, or Dobermans, I'm kind of stuck in this middle. If the guy has a therapy dog with a pit, then he probably paid $79 online to get certified. Is there any way around that?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, that's not something that we look into at all because it doesn't fall within our jurisdiction. No.
We're going to have a fair housing class at 2 o'clock and we will talk about that.
It's a common question, but there are certain animals that qualify as therapy dogs, and I think there's some exclusions as well. But that's not something that we regulate. So
I mean, there's some specifics about therapy dogs, not your pet that makes you feel good.
Exactly.
And so we need to talk about that.
Right.
And make it clear which is it, because it has to serve a purpose. And you have a right to answer them when they say I got a therapy dog.
Yes.
What's the purpose? What's the dog do? And they have a legal responsibility to answer that question. You can't ask them, what's your condition?
Right.
But what does the dog do for you, and clarify that.
And I think one of the exclusions,
you can't say, well, let me see the dog do it.
Right.
You can't ask that either.
And I think one of the exclusions is emotional support dogs. I don't think they qualify as therapy dogs anymore.
There's a difference between a service dog and a therapy dog.
Right.
Because we're getting a ton of that. I mean, they'll say, well, what's your pet deposit? You'll give them the pet deposit and they say, oh, it's a therapy dog. I can go to my doctor tomorrow and get a note. I'm like, get a note tomorrow? Like, you don't have a note today?
Right.
So it's an issue.
Yeah, definitely go to Don's class so he can go over all that with you. But that's not something that falls under our jurisdiction.
Do y'all just regulate realtors or do you regulate or stay on top of for sale by owners and what they do?
No, we regulate real estate licensees. So I mean, we don't typically use the word realtors in the real estate commission because every licensee is not a realtor. If you're a member of the board, then you're a realtor. But there are a lot of licensees out here that are not members of the MLS or any board, but they can still practice real estate. But that's who we regulate. We regulate licensees as well as people who perform licensable activities without a license. We don't regulate your buyers and sellers, so if you want to file a complaint against your seller or your buyer, we can't look into something like that.
And we are a licensing board, but we're also a consumer protection agency.
Why do you not, like builders, because builders.
Yeah.
Right, but they're
Unless they're
providing-
licensed, unless they have a real estate, some builders have real estate licenses, okay? But we don't regulate their building business. We regulate them as real estate licensees. Okay?
John, I think you brought up a point, that's why I like the difference between the license required activities and those that are not required license. In the past, there was a little list of
Yes.
these things that I haven't found and I can't find it now.
Right.
Where
And
it's
we,
right.
yeah, we are working on a new list. Some of you, I don't know how long everybody here has been licensed, but some of you may remember we had single party broker, transaction broker several years ago. That law was repealed. So we did have a list that we published and put out on our website that was called activities that require a license and activities that do not require a license. We took that down several years ago because the commissioners wanted us to. A lot of the verbiage was outdated. We updated, or actually I updated the document. We sent it over to our AG. There was a lot of stuff they didn't like in the new document. So they are reviewing it now and hopefully we will publish a new one pretty soon. Okay.
A good rule to kind of look at is when you're looking at what's licensable, just look at the under the definition of broker. And the three things that we kind of look for is whether it's negotiating, soliciting, or marketing.
Yeah.
If it fits in any of those three, then
a license
is required.
What was the first one?
Negotiate.
Right.
Okay, between the buyer and seller that are not licensed, there's no rules for them, is there? They do anything they want.
Not as far as we're concerned.
Right.
No, we
That's what
can't.
we were saying.
There are
But
state
once-
laws.
Yes, there are state laws, but we
Okay.
can't go after them.
But let's say, because we do this, as a real estate agent walks in and we're selling it for sale by owner, we then require a disclosure that fills out for our customer.
Yes.
Should we, or do we have to?
A residential property condition
Yes.
disclosure? Yes.
Because between a buyer and seller, they don't.
They don't. They're not required to. If there's no
Once we
licensing
get
involved.
it has to be
Yes.
done.
But as a licensee, you should request that one be completed. Yes.
So all we can do is request, and if they choose not to, then
Yeah, if they choose not to, I mean, you can't force them to do that.
we
But you
continue
have
to
to
move
make that
forward.
request.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Document.
Yes.
Request it, write it in some way, have it approved for it.
Absolutely.
So the new thing that we're seeing,
Mhm.
the new thing that we're seeing is ISAs, so inside sales, where they're just calling, for sell by owners or
Mhm.
whatever. But all those people are supposed to be licensed, yes?
Yeah, because they're soliciting. In essence, they're soliciting for licensees, so they should be licensed.
I thought they could, yeah, they did around the country, so I didn't know. Yes. I mean, we're seeing some of that stuff, we're seeing like.
You're saying people are outsourcing those services?
Yeah.
to do
Yes,
their
they're
cold calling?
outsourcers that are hiring for it.
Yeah.
The people in the Philippines are making those phone calls and making appointments for local realtors.
Yeah, see, that it falls within the three.
Mhm.
Negotiation, soliciting, and that, or marketing.
Right. Now, we would go after the licensee who's contracting with that company to do it, because obviously we can't go after somebody in the Philippines, but they shouldn't be doing
So
that.
like if you had, say if I had an assistant, I have my assistant calling people, and my assistant's not licensed, that would be a violation.
Your assistant can make appointments for you. If you want them to set appointments, or people call in and say, I want to set an appointment, that's fine. But you don't want them actively soliciting just a list of, sellers or buyers out there calling that list and saying, hey, I work for, such and such. Do you want to set an appointment? Can she come out and take a look at your property? Because they're actively soliciting for those individuals. Okay.
And that is.
And that's a little bit different.
That's real close, the same thing.
It's close, but again, they're soliciting. But like I said, setting appointments, let's just say somebody calls in and they want to schedule an appointment with you, then that's perfectly fine. Your assistant can do that. But if they're actively soliciting, then and you haven't made any contact with that individual, then that can be a problem.
So what constitutes contact? And I'm trying to get straight because what the ISAs are typically doing nationwide is we have a website, for instance, that people register on and say, contact me. We have the ISA call them and see if it's a real deal and it's at the point. Is that legal, unlegal? The ISA doesn't have a license.
Yeah, that's a fine line. I mean, we really have to review everything. I haven't investigated any complaints like that, but obviously if we do get them, we would investigate exactly what's taking place.
Because I would think it is just pound concept at point. That's probably fine, but hey, I saw you got on a website, are you interested in selling your home?
Right.
That's probably not gonna work.
But they're not sharing any numbers or prices or anything. I mean, they're not doing anything that's.
I think it just really depends. I mean, without knowing exactly what's taking place, it's hard to say.
Yeah, the question, right back.
Yes, ma'am.
And then be our last one.
Oh, anyway, in years past, I guess from what I understood, that if you have a license, an unlicensed assistant working in the office, phone calls go to them, they answer, they really shouldn't give you information about the property or.
That's correct.
You gotta get it right.
Well, this is kind of how I look at it. If it's public information, like what's the square footage of the house, which you can look up on the assessor's record, basic info, what's the list price? Because you've probably got that advertised somewhere as well. That's fine, okay? But you don't want them negotiating any terms about your properties or anything like that, so.
It seemed like years ago, that's what we were told, was unlicensed assistant couldn't even take one little job about that.
Yeah, and like I said, I wouldn't investigate something like that. Okay, it's basic public information. I wouldn't investigate something like that. Yes.
Okay, so those of us who advertise, who are on Zillow, that we pay advertising on Zillow has their own ISAs that verify buyers for us. So like if someone if they click on me, Zillow will contact them, I think like 4 or 5 times saying, are you an actual buyer? Or, things like that, because they're trying to provide a service filtering those dead leads. Right. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing about Zillow, I think Zillow is licensed in a few jurisdictions, right? And then they can refer those leads out to you, right? Because you subscribe to their service to get those leads. So we've never opened up a case against Zillow for anything. So I don't see that as a problem. I mean, I don't understand how they work, but we don't have any active investigations against Zillow.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And evidently, we'll probably have you back.
Yes, please.
For you. But I also want to thank Don and Grant and Lolly. You do take time to answer all these questions.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
I left some business cards up here, so if anybody wants to call, you can certainly take a business card. If you have any questions, give us a call. Thank you guys for your time.
Okay, please. Okay, we'll go on. We have Lolly.
Good job.
How are you then?
That's awesome.
Okay, just some highlights. We are going to, this date is fluid. We're not necessarily going to roll that out on the 10th, but we are upgrading and amping up our productivity coaching program, just FYI. This is a great class. I would highly recommend it if you want to increase your downline, which is a great thing. Profit share. These guys are definitely being purposeful about it, and they're doing something right. They haven't even been here that long, and they're killing it on sales as well as profit share, which also helps you. Yes, the one's at Elite and one is at Central and Edmond, but they're both great.
Please come.
They're really doing things right, and they really care, about changing lives, and that's what they're being purposeful about. They both have a great heart, and they're doing it right. It's going to be, February 15th. It'll be here, probably in this training room, and they'll both be here as panel discussion for you, and you can ask some questions. Family reunion, we are going to live. It'll be in this building as well, every day. And I don't have an agenda for you right now, but you'll be able to come in here and watch it, because we've already bought it where you'll be able to be there virtually. Okay, and then also, please put this on your calendar, March 27th. We've had a massive, great relaunch and a completely rejuvenation of culture. So I want to have a great showing there at our awards banquet, as well as honor all of you that work so hard to do your production and help our office. It will be March 27th. It's not in Tulsa this year. It's here, probably at the Reed Center. Not quite sure, but it's usually around like 9:30 to 12 or 1. It's not an all-day thing, but we'll probably have some noise makers or something where we definitely are going to look like our team that we are, the rock stars that we are. We have another slide. Okay, here's some highlights of the performers in December. You can see whoever home team. I won't read out all those numbers just to save time for you because I know we've already kept it quite a while. But that's the teams as well as individuals. Still rocking it. That's great. Thank you so much. Say it again. Colette's at the top. Colette's staying at the top. Any more slides? Grand Hawkins Book Club, Wednesdays at the South Office at 1 o'clock, and we still have our Power Hour, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 o'clock at the South Office. 3+ closings to Capper, and Monday at 11 to 12 at the South Office. On that one. Those are great classes. And then Lolly did this to help people. We kind of already know this. This is just information to maybe tell your sellers, because some of your sellers don't know to take away all the toys, minimize family photos, set your thermostat at a reasonable temperature. Yeah, we've all had that. Secure pet items, things like that.
Then where can we get that?
You can ask for Lolly.
I'll be glad to give you.
Can you send that out?
Yes, I will.
And thank you for being here, members. Thank you all for being here. Very much.
So that was recorded. It's live also. That's the value of this. What works best. We can do this a lot of people. A lot of people talk about it. Go back to the somebody might trick this. I have had recordings during my autograph. Oh, now. That's a weapon. Anyway, we had accommodations for almost everybody. We had 52 chairs. That's that's how many are licenses. We have a turntable there and I shut them off. They were muted them because I didn't want them to know coming over the station. We'll see how it goes. Because now they're watching. how to get your across. Let's talk about half hour before the meeting starts. Get it set up. Shut off. Yeah. Right in this space. Molly?
Sir?
Pulled it off. I could, had we been able to use that other wire here, I could have pulled up the forms and all that, but that wasn't working. So I still got work to do to get all of that tweaked, but it works. And this looks, that high definition looks really good.
It does, it really does.
And
It's
then this
awesome.
worked.
Your upgrades are amazing.
So we're making good progress. And
Yes,
I'll
sir.
say, I don't know on the little VGA cord, it comes up. I got it working, but it was not a clean, crisp, good picture. And it has been on there. So, and I had it plugged in on my computer. So I got that, worked that out. Because that would be handy to be able to have gone live back and forth from the, because I had on my computer the rules, the advertising rules on the commission. I had all the contact forms that he mentioned. I could have flipped to and say, here's what that says.
Man.
And so we'll get there
So
we can do that.
Since you recorded it,
Yeah.
can go, you will have that ready, won't you?
Yeah, because I'm going to end it now. But yes, when we go to our YouTube account, which is what Janae would do, I'm going to end the broadcast now. That's it.